Scattered throughout the human empire, and each hiding a secret relic of the old world, the monasteries of the monks of Maribor are one of the most untalked about yet intriguing places in all of Elan. So today, we are going to cover the history of the monasteries and finally reveal what artifact is hidden at each. This video will have spoilers for the Legends of the First Empire series, the Rise and Fall series, Disappearance of Winter's Daughter, Drumendor, and the Riyria Revelation series. Let's get started. After the establishment of the Novronian Empire, the son of Ronan Gifford, Bran, would grow up hearing about his parents' adventures and learning to read. Bran was given the Book of Bryn, which covered human history up through the Battle of Granford. While reading was outlawed by Emperor Nephron, Bran was able to get away with his defiance as he was loved and protected by the human mystic Suri. And while Emperor Nephron had a tight grip on the empire, Suri was the one person he didn't want to tangle with. But Bran knew that the emperor would far outlive both him and Suri, and so after his parents died, he left the capital city of Persepliquis and started his journey to explore the world and spread literacy. He first went southwest to Dolgath, where he founded his first monastery, Breckon Moor. He created a copy of the Book of Bryn and taught his followers to read. This created not only the first monastery, but established the Order of the Monks of Maribor. The purpose of the Monks of Maribor was not only to keep literacy alive in the empire, but also keep live the true history of the world, or at least the true history according to the Book of Bryn. Bran continued in this fashion, visiting regions, gaining a following, teaching them to read, transcribing a copy of the Book of Bryn, building a monastery, and then setting off for the next location. During that time, Bran gained two very important followers, Dibben, whom the Dibben Monastery is named after, and Falkirk for whom the Falkirk Monastery is named. We won't cover the whole story with those three characters since we already covered it in our Falkirk video, which you can watch, but here's the quick summary. Bran had learned that there was an extension of his Book of Bryn, which he would refer to as the Second Book of Bryn, which told the full story of the humans, including what happened after the Battle of Granford. Bran, along with Dibben and Falkirk, decided to go looking for it, which would lead them to Avampartha and Barapathin, where Falkirk would become corrupted and betray Dibben and Bran. Bran would be killed, but not before they were able to trap the still-living Falkirk, who was turning into a Rau, in the basement of his own monastery. Dibben would then bring Bran's body back to the Dibben Monastery, where he would be laid to rest. After Bran's death, the monks of Maribor would continue in their charge to keep literacy alive in the empire, sometimes by simply existing, reading, and writing, and other times through more drastic measures, such as when they created an elaborate labyrinth in the cliffs of Albernia, where they hid a copy of the Book of Bryn. The monks' daily lives were mostly informed by their sacred text, the Codex of Maribor. The Codex consisted of four main sections. The first section, the Treatise of the Gods, was an overview of the deities as written in the Book of Bryn. This was, of course, from before Bryn visited Pyre, so while it included some truths, it also had some mistakes, such as calling Mari Maribor, mistaking Muriel for Illyria, and calling Erebus a god instead of a city. The second section, Meditations of Maribor, was written by Falkirk before his corruption, and included basic rules to live a proper life. This section formed the foundational core of the monk's creed. The third section, the Book of Nephron, covered the history of the humans up through the Battle of Granford. And the final section contained fables such as Gronbach and the Treasure of Neath and the Evil Dwarf of the Crescent Forest. So now that we've covered the basics on the monks of Maribor, let's go through the juicy details of each monastery. We have visited 4 of the 7 monasteries in the books, so we will start with those. To the far east in Alburn, outside of Rochelle, lies the ruins of the only abandoned monastery on this list, Falkirk. We see this monastery in Fairlane as it is still in use, but by the time we get to the Riyria series, we see in Disappearance of Winter's Daughter that it had been completely abandoned. One incredibly intriguing thing to note is in Drumendor, Falkirk states that the monastery was built along the ley line. This is the first we have heard about ley lines in Elan, and brings to question, is it just this monastery that is on a ley line, or are all the monasteries similar in this aspect? And what types of implications could that have? Could the monasteries being on ley lines serve a larger purpose, or are there other structures also on these ley lines? These are questions we still don't know. But that brings us to the final point, that the Falkirk Monastery is unique in its situation with housing an ancient relic. We believe it is the only monastery without an ancient relic, but that makes sense with how Bran, Falkirk, and Dibben ended things in the monastery. So I guess we could say that the ancient relic is Falkirk's Row trapped in the basement, which Royce and Hadrian did accidentally set free. We now move over to the furthest west monastery, Breckon Moor. In Death of Dulgath, we visit the town of Dulgath and the monastery that sits just a short walk outside of it. This was the first monastery that Bran ever founded when he stopped in Dulgath and met the spirit of Makareta. This was also the monastery that Princess Fairlane raided, which led her to find instructions on finding Falkirk's copy of the Book of Bryn. When Hadrian visits the monastery, he actually gets to see the secret relic contained there, the Breckon Moor of Bryn, which is how the monastery got its name. When Bran founded the monastery, he left behind his green, black, and blue plaid wrapped garment, which he had gotten from his parents, which had originally belonged to Bryn. Deep in the mystic woods lies Dibben Monastery. We see this monastery in Fairlane and realize there's a reason for its secretive location. Dibben is the chief monastery for the monks of Maribor, which means other monasteries defer to Dibben to make decisions, such as when the Wind's Abbey needs a new abbot. When Fairlane visits Dibben, she finds that the monks there actually know magic. This is because the monastery was built where the mystic Suri used to live, and she taught the monks, including Dibben himself, the art. They kept this knowledge alive, and thousands of years later, when the Empire decided to make magic not only legal, but established the Censars, the magical guild, it was built upon those same Dibben monks. Fairlane would also discover the special relic hidden beneath Dibben when she found the tomb of Roan, Gifford, and Bran, as in Bran's coffin was the original Book of Bryn. Wind's Abbey is the final of the 4 monasteries that we have visited in the books. Located near Lake Windermere in western Mellingar, we go there multiple times in the Riyria Revelation series, both in Theft of Swords and Heir of Navron. When we first see the monastery, it had just been burned down, with only a single monk, Myron, having survived. Eventually, it would be rebuilt with the help of Myron and the dwarf Magnus. We never do see the secret relic hidden in Wind's Abbey, but it has been revealed by Sullivan what that relic is. One disclaimer is that for all of the remaining secret relics we will discuss, none have ever appeared in print. And so, while Sullivan himself has revealed what they are, this is technically not canon and could be changed in the future. But with no further ado, the secret relic at the Wind's Abbey is Wraith's black bronze sword. This black bronze sword was smelt by Roan during the Battle of Granford, when Suri sacrificed Wraith to create a Galarabrin. Wraith's true name was etched upon the blade, and the blade would later be used by Nephron to destroy the Galarabrin. One interesting fact about this is that in Nolan, we see the black bronze sword in Persepliquus in Nephron's closet, meaning the sword must have gotten to the monastery after that, which was hundreds of years after Bran's time. We don't know how this happened, but one theory may include Tech-Chin and the Order of the Fallen, as he would have been one of the few with access to Nephron's closet, and the Order of the Fallen was located not that far from Wind's Abbey. We now get to the monasteries which we have never seen in text, only heard about. Isle of Blue is located on a small island in the Avon Bay. We know very little about this monastery, other than it suffers terrible storms, and Fairlane states that its monks are irritable and brooding. The secret relic hidden there is the silver sword and armor worn by Gifford during his legendary ride at the Battle of Granford, where he became the first human to ride a horse and rode it through Fane Lothian's army in order to escape and light the signal fires, calling reinforcements to Alan Rist. Located just outside of Varennes, our next monastery is Whitehall. Whitehall is located along trade routes and therefore is the most accessible of all the monasteries. But an unfortunate consequence of its location is that it has been plundered by pirates numerous times. The relic hidden is another sword, this time being the Sword of Words. This was the sword forged by dwarven smiths in Carrick and etched with the name Galarabrin. Not only was this sword used by Suri to destroy Minas Galarabrin, but was also used by Roan and the human smiths in order to understand how to create iron and eventually steel weapons. This sword was also used by Amicus Killian, who co-founded the Teshlor Knights. Our final monastery is Farview, located in the majestic mountains. We know very little about this remote monastery besides that it is located in a snowy mountain crag, and that within it lies the Staff of Tura. While the staff belonged to Tura, after her death it passed to the mystic Suri, who would use it in her travels. Thank you so much for watching today's video. Be sure to subscribe and watch my other videos to learn more about the world of Alan and Riyria. Thanks!